Hello and welcome to another episode of MacStories Unwind. I'm John Voorhees, and with me is Federico Vitici. How are you, Federico?
Hello, John. I'm fighting with my hair today.
Oh,
You see this?
what's wrong with your...
the video.
Oh, you have a little... Yeah, you got a little something sticking out there on the side.
Yeah, I gotta go. One of the many things that I gotta do before WWDC is I gotta go get a haircut.
Yeah, I gotta do the same.
I want to be nicely presentable for WWDC, which is also coincidentally WWDC prep is sort of our topic today.
It is because we're heading into what we call the sprint. You know what I mean? It's clearing the decks a little bit, getting projects out of the way. I know you've been super busy with a whole bunch of things. Yeah. I've got more to write than I could even do if I, in like 2 months. But I'm going to see what I can do, trying to get a couple things out the door every day. And there's just the prep of being ready for WWDC, because I think for me, the thing that I always, I guess, fret about a little bit is being able to collect all the information that I'm going to need over the summer, because the problem with being at WWDC is you can't sit down and read for hours on end. You have to just collect your links and get moving and deal with it when you get home. And having a good system for capturing all that stuff and organizing it in some automated kind of way is kind of helpful.
Yeah, this is something that I've been thinking about a lot, especially since... So I started using Notion last year, just before WWDC, and I've been writing in Notion ever since. Obviously, the challenge for me at this point, I'm going to do once again an iOS and iPadOS 27 review.
Right.
And the more I do this, this will be my 11th, 12th? I don't even know anymore. I started with iOS 9. So that's 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 26. Also, this will be my 12th
wow.
iOS review. And so the challenge for me is not necessarily organizing the current information, because I've been thinking about that, like, how am I going to organize my iOS 27 research? I can use Notion again. I can potentially use Apple Intelligence itself on iOS 27, take it for a spin, see if it integrates with files for PDFs or web archives, whatever, especially since, the new Siri with Apple Intelligence is going to be based on Google Gemini. Google Gemini has a 1 million token context window. So that could be an idea, to use Apple Intelligence to organize the research for iOS 27. Or I even thought, compared to last year, the progress that we have seen in Cloud Code has been incredible. Codex didn't even exist. Now we have Codex. So I even thought, well, maybe I can just, set up a folder on my Mac, like a project folder, dump everything inside the folder.
This is what I'm doing.
And just let the agent take care of it itself. But that's not my primary challenge.
Okay.
My primary challenge now is remembering the previous versions of iOS. I've been writing these iOS reviews since 2015 with iOS 9, and I don't have a perfect memory for these things. If you ask me, hey, Tici, do you remember when the iMessage app tray was redesigned? Or do you remember when Apple Music got the, integration with Shazam Kit? Like those very precise details, my memory is kind of hazy at this point. It was easier when it was like my fourth iOS review. I need a system for searching this, and I've been trying to build this system for the past couple of years, and I always failed because coding agents were never that good.
Yeah, they weren't good enough.
But now they are. And so I've been thinking actually that my main challenge this year, realistically, I will be using a folder with an agent to organize all my research and just dump everything in there and maybe somehow connect that to Notion. We'll see. I don't know.
I have an idea for you for that.
Okay, put a pin in that for a second.
Okay, go ahead.
I think what I will be doing is I will create a mini app for me with the help of Codex that will create an embeddings archive, so a vector-based archive of all of my iOS reviews. use the OpenAI embeddings endpoint, or maybe the Google embeddings endpoint. I'm not sure which one is the best performance and cost these days. I need to do some research, but basically I want to create a vector database of my iOS reviews and find a way to ask Codex questions about that database.
Right.
That's sort of my plan. So that instead of actually, because those reviews now exceed 1 million tokens. I was just below 1 million tokens last year, but now with the iOS 26 review, I am over the 1 million token threshold.
Yeah.
So that's going to be my primary challenge.
This episode of MacStories Unwind is brought to you by Zero Duplicates. If your Mac, iPhone, or iPad has picked up years of duplicate downloads, renamed files, restored backups, exported photos, or copied folders, Zero Duplicates is built to help clean that up safely. Zero Duplicates is a duplicate file finder that compares the actual contents of your files, not just their names. That matters because duplicate files are not always obvious. Maybe you downloaded the same PDF twice and a 1 was appended to the file name that you didn't know about. Or maybe you renamed a file and forgot about the original. Or a backup or sync folder left another exact copy somewhere else. Zero Duplicates can catch all of those matches because it's looking at what's inside the file, not what it's called. The app is also designed with privacy in mind. Zero Duplicates scans locally on your device so your files aren't uploaded to the cloud or sent to any outside server. They stay on your Mac, iPhone, or iPad. You're also in complete control before anything is deleted. You can preview your files first, and Zero Duplicates is built to keep at least one copy of every file, with safeguards to help avoid accidental deletions. On the Mac, Zero Duplicates can scan external drives, USB drives, network volumes, iCloud Drive, and locally synced folders from services like Dropbox, Google Drive, and OneDrive. And on the iPhone and iPad, it works with storage available through the Files app. Zero Duplicates is free to download, includes unlimited scans, and lets you delete up to 500 megabytes of duplicated files for free. A premium upgrade unlocks unlimited deletions. Listeners of MacStories Unwind can get their first month of a premium subscription for free by using the code MacStories2026. Just visit zeroduplicates.com/MacStories2026 to learn more. That's Zero Duplicates, the privacy, on-device duplicate file finder for Mac, iPhone, and iPad. Again, visit zeroduplicates.com/MacStories2026 to learn more, and remember to use that code MacStories2026 to get your first month of Zero Duplicates Premium for free. Our thanks to Zero Duplicates for their support of the show.
What was your idea?
So here's my idea. First of all, it's been evolving and it's not completely finalized yet. I'm in the midst of all of this, but as a preview, originally my idea was to create a web app that kind of dealt with a lot of the things you just mentioned in the background. I found that the web app angle was too complex, and instead the front end is not going to be a web app. It's just going to be something like CoWork or Claude Code or Codex. Any of them I can use. What I'm doing is I created a system using the Obsidian web clipper that uses various schemas for different kinds of content, so that if I'm on a web page and there's a PDF embedded, it treats it one way. If it's a YouTube video, it treats it another, fetching the transcript. If it's an article, it's a third way that it gets handled. If it's Apple developer documentation, that gets treated a fourth way. So there's like 4 or 5 of these different schemas for saving information from the web into Obsidian, into a folder. And then what I've got is I'm going to be doing similar type of embedding type thing so that I can query not just with, term searches, but doing a semantic search using one of the agents to find what I'm looking for, and it's all contained in an Obsidian base, which is their database structure, and all this stuff with all the metadata gets automatically added by the Obsidian web clipper. So for when I'm pressed for time, like when we're at WWDC and I come across things, I can just dump things in there with the tap of an extension in Safari, which is going to be really easy. Or I could use Chrome for that matter, because Obsidian's extension is everywhere. And when I get home, I can refine it a little bit, maybe add some additional metadata if it's necessary, but just start querying the things that I've collected over time and generating lists and outlines of things that I need to explore further. And that's kind of the shape of what I'm thinking of right now. There are some things I need to explore a little more, like what's the best way to approach the embeddings. I have like an open source embedding system that I tried at first, and I'm not sure it's the right one or not. I need to research that a little bit more. But I think the idea of Obsidian is good, because here's kind of where I'm landing with maybe the future of my research system, which is Obsidian is going to serve as the dumping ground of all the raw material. And then from there, it'll hook into Notion to allow me to take things out that I want to preserve more permanently, either for a more permanent research library, or if I generate reports and things, summarizing things with links back to the source material, putting those resulting reports into Notion so that when I go to work in Notion on my notes and the materials that I want to use for my review, I won't have as much clutter in Notion. But that's just kind of like a preliminary idea. I haven't decided entirely what to do yet, but I like the idea of having just raw text and not having to deal with the OAuth, with Notion, not having to deal with the OAuth mobile app, which is okay but not great, and all that kind of thing. Instead, I'm going to deal with raw text, and when I'm down to actually doing the writing and doing the research, then I can move things into Notion kind of on an ad hoc basis. What do you think?
I'm not convinced I want to use Obsidian again, but
I set up a separate vault for this, a separate vault too, I should say.
I think the approach of using the file system is definitely the right one. If only because it gives you more flexibility these days with agents, right? And I mean, you get to use Obsidian, you get to use any of these other modern Markdown text editors. I've been using this one on my Mac just to open files in place called Cogito. That we covered. Good app, and good enough design. Wish it had more keyboard shortcuts for things like Markdown images and stuff like that. But it's like easier to use than Obsidian if you just want to open and preview a Markdown file and make some lightweight changes.
It's also still in beta. I expect some of that stuff will come.
Yeah, so I think definitely the approach of using a folder in Finder or in iCloud Drive, whatever you want to do, obviously making sure that you back up everything in multiple places. I think it's definitely what I'm going to try and do. But I am not, my main struggle remains like, it's always that, like the connection between the research material and where I'm actually doing the writing.
Yep, exactly.
Because I try to think about this in a very pragmatic way. It's all fancy and nice when you organize your research and you feel accomplished because you organize your research. But then when it's actually a matter of like, okay, I'm sitting down now, I gotta write the stuff. Like we can argue, we can talk about research. Now I gotta write the stuff. And how's that gonna happen? Where I will be looking at the empty page and the research material. The research material, what shape does it have? Is it a bunch of highlights? Is it a bunch of summaries? Is it, highlights that are deep linked to a web page or to a page in a PDF? Like, and how am I going to reference that when I'm writing? So that's always been my struggle. And I used to use mind maps back in the day. Then I stopped. And then I used to actually merge the two. Like my notes were the dumping ground, and then those notes became the chapter. So it was actually like almost like refining the notes until they were a piece of a section or a piece of a chapter. So is that an idea? Like, should I actually be writing inside my research notes like I used to? I don't know, but that's also an interesting angle where, like, I could imagine, for example, and this is just me spitballing a theory, like, what if the research and the notes are where the writing happens, and what if I could get my agent on a schedule to go, search for the latest changes in iOS 27 beta 4, right? And see if anything particular has changed that is contradictory to something that I wrote in my chapter about that feature.
Exactly.
That's something that now we can do with these agents. I'm not using the agent to write. I want to do the writing.
Right.
But I'm using the agent as my little guy going off on the internet and saying, no, actually you wrote that the App Store tab bar has 4 items. Now they have 3. Like that sort of thing can now be automated. Whereas it used to be me just keeping track of, okay, beta 4 changed this icon to be this glyph. Now I got to go back in manually, So I'm kind of thinking about that loop more than anything at this point.
Yeah, no, that is the right thing to be thinking about, I think, because it's just managing a lot of data is really what it comes down to. And I think what you're talking about in terms of where does this stuff present itself, where does it sit while you're doing the writing is an important one. And it's one reason that's kind of leading me back to plain text with Obsidian, although, I mean, as you said, it doesn't have to be Obsidian. It can be any kind of folder full of markdown files. But I'm thinking about Obsidian mainly because one of the things I also recently explored was using Cowork and getting Cowork synced up between 2 Macs, my desktop Mac and my laptop. Because
how?
Symlinks, and it's actually if you just point them at the same source of documents that you're working in, which is the Obsidian Vault, and then you symlink the agents.md file between the 2 of them. It is possible to keep them pretty well synced together because Obsidian Sync can do it for you. Just have the files right there, all in an Obsidian Vault. So that's kind of what I'm working on. I haven't battle tested it yet. I've just been fiddling with it.
My other struggle has always been, and most likely will always continue to be, mobile capture. So let's say that I'm at the beach this summer and beta 3 comes out.
Yep.
And, maybe Sylvia's listening to some music or reading a book and I'm on my phone and I see that there's a new beta and I'm like, okay, I want to be able to save some quick notes or some quick ideas. How do I do that? Because if I'm using Notion, that's easy. I can use shortcuts for Notion. I can use the Notion mobile app. I can use the Notion AI mobile app to just say, hey, append this quick note to something else. But if I'm using the file system instead with an agent, what am I supposed to do? I don't know, save a text file with some thoughts with Tailscale to a folder on my MacStudio server? Like, is that what the mobile capture workflow will look like if I'm using the file system?
Use a web clipper. Use Obsidian web clipper. Right? I mean, it's got like an enormous amount of metadata that can be stored alongside the markdown, including notes.
But what if I want to save a quick note to myself? Like just a thought that I have.
Yeah, then I think you would probably end up using a shortcut for if you wanted to do just plain text, you would end up using a shortcut for Obsidian probably.
Maybe the idea is to have a folder called Inbox somewhere on my Mac.
Yeah, or you could just use Notion for that piece of it, and then Notion you can have an exporter that you could, if you want to combine it with your research, you can always move it from Notion into your file system later.
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to the automation layer that you put in the middle. Like,
yeah, I think so
how
too.
do I tell the agent to say, okay, these are my latest notes and thoughts, process them, and put them in a structured format somewhere? I don't want to overcomplicate it. That's my other thing.
That's the thing that I'm guilty of way too often. And then it breaks down. You really just want something that makes it simple to save things quickly and then have an agent structure that will allow you to organize it later, either automatically or with as little input from you as possible.
Yeah, that I think will be both of our approaches this summer. And I think I am leaning more and more toward the file system approach because that allows me to use codecs, keep codecs running on the Mac Studio, use automations, self-organize that folder, organize. I've never been able to self-organize screenshots by betas. Now the agent can do that. Like, all those things are finally the kind of thing that I can do.
Right. You can get it to automatically name those things and just tell it this is a set of screenshots from beta 3, and just select them all, dump them in a folder. They get renamed, and then they get indexed in some way.
Yeah.
All
right. So that's we will circle back. Hey, maybe we will be using Apple Intelligence for all of this. Who knows?
Yeah, we'll see.
I doubt it, but who knows?
One thing I don't want to do is spend a lot of time trying to force something into a square peg into a round hole. So, I'll give it a shot with Apple Intelligence, but we'll have to see how it comes out.
Tell you what, John, why don't we save our picks for next week?
That's fine with me.
This week we've done a behind-the-scenes episode.
Yeah, behind-the-scenes episode is good, and I'll dig up an Unwind Deal for everybody too, so we have something for people to look forward to for the weekend. Apple's been a little stingy with the deals lately, but I'll find something good.
Okay.
All right, everybody. Well, thanks for joining us today. You can find me and Federico at MacStories.net, and we're on social media. Federico is at Viticci. That's Viticci, and I'm at John Voorhees. JohnVoorhees. Talk to you next week, Federico.
Ciao, John.